Bueno, mi gente, Cali X Boxing here. Let me make sure real quick that this mic is working well. I just saw it's not green. It's looking yellow. So let me see. Hold on one second. I should be good. Jesus M is there. Jesus M. Let me know if this mic's not working properly if you don't hear it well. So shout out to my guy Jesus M in the building on this Thursday. And we're going to preview some fights coming up this weekend. Got some fighters fighting this weekend that I like. Good audio. Sweet. So Serge is in the building. Jesus M. What's up to Demetrio? What's up, Calix? Hit that like, y'all. And y'all, please do. Let's put it now. Hit that like. There we go. Cordina's in action. Civinati Nonshinga's in action, my guy from down there at 108. Muratalla, dude, I love that fight. I love that fight right there. You've got two undefeated fighters with high KO percentage right there. Muratalla, Diego Torres Nunes, high KO percentage. We don't really know what to expect from Nunes, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I love that fight. Another fight that I love, Henry LeBron versus William Foster III. Love that fight as well. And my betting guys that I know that I reach out to sort of look, what should I look out for this weekend? They say that's a true 50-50 fight, which it is, the betting odds. And I'll get into that in a minute. The betting odds say it's a true 50-50 fight. And Nontshinga, of course, against Adrian Dominguez. And we'll highlight all of those fights. So we'll talk about the positives coming in that we're actually getting fights, and we'll break down those fights. And I'll just quickly tell you what I'm looking at as far as betting odds. And on top of that, we'll talk about the negative on the back end of this. The negative being that just wait. Just wait until later on in the show when you hear the stats behind the activity level in 2023. Good Lord. We're going to break down top 10 pound for pound and how much they fought this year, but we're going to take it all the way to the top 100. ESPN put out a top 100 list at the beginning of the year, top 100 pound for pound. And BoxRec's top 100 gives you the same data, the same. Different lists, it's going to spit out the same activity level. It is alarming. It's disturbing. And the most disturbing part about this is nobody's talking about it. That's the most disturbing part about this is nobody's talking about it. It's a huge problem. It's the biggest problem in the sport. Nobody's talking about it. They'll talk about drug testing. They'll talk about Tyson Fury losing to a heavyweight, and that's why boxing is going to come to an end. It's going to topple because Tyson Fury lost in a crossover match to a UFC guy. But we're ignoring the foundational issues of this sport, and one of them being inactivity. And I'm telling you, it's ugly. It is ugly. Wait till you hear these stats that I'm about to give you in about 10, 15 minutes as this show goes on. It is ugly. It's ugly. So I wanted to start off with the positive because people are going to say, why are you talking about that? Why do you keep bashing the sport? It's not what we're doing. D-Style and I have like a twofold plan when it comes to boxing and how we attack it. We don't have to talk about it. Like, we both know that's our plan. And our plan is to big up, highlight the good of the sport, talk about actual matchups, because we do that in Aftermath. We do that in the roundtable. We talk about this in HCP. We talk about matchups each week, whether it's big matchups, lower tier matchups. We highlight in particular. We talk about, we're spitballing right now on how we can help fighters who are coming up and trying to make a name for themselves. But at the same time, we have to highlight the negative at the top, because if we want things to change at the top, I find the most effective way to do that is to troll those people at the top, because they do not like being trolled. It is proven that no matter how big they get, they are thin-skinned, and they will react to dudes with 2,000 followers on Twitter. They will dox people who come after them. So it's clear that they don't like to be trolled. So that's what I'll do here. I'll troll the people at the top not behaving like they should be behaving in order to further the sport. And then at the same time, we're going to build the guys just trying to come up in this broken system. Just trying to come up, trying to make something of themselves as fighters. And we're going to start there in this show. and work our way down to the negative, from positive to negative, because we have matchups and we have fighters behaving like fighters this weekend. First of all, roll call Tony Yayo, call up Steve Kim to talk about chronic inactivity, and that's going to come. We're going to have to do that. I'm going to have to hit up Steve Kim. I'm going to have to get him back on because I want to talk about that with him, because of all the people who can actually have a voice, who can do something about this, Steve Kim's the only one talking about this. And Dougie Fisher's out there too. Michael Montero will highlight this stuff. And that's why they're getting a lot of pushback from all the right people. That's why they're getting the pushback that they're getting. Don't doubt me on that. That's why they have the same cast of characters coming after them, because they're highlighting, look, man, you guys aren't fighting. You guys aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're not behaving like fighters. And Steve Kim's one of the guys who's doing that. Bivol had a stare down with Better Biev and Dude's Orgasm. That's what I'm saying. Like, they're out in Saudi Arabia. Everybody's celebrating what's going on in Saudi Arabia. Look at this big event. Look at all the people there. And I'm like, when are these dudes going to fight? When are they going to fight? Oh, look at all the stuff going on in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, so it takes them 1,000,000 years to get a fight done. They're artificially propping up the price of fights, which is going to lead to more inactivity, because look at all the overhead out there just to put on Fury versus Ngannou. They can't even get Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder done. They've been working on that fight for 1.5 years. Good luck. And like Chicano says, dudes are orgasming over Bivol versus Better Biev doing a stare down in tuxedos. It's like, how about they take the shirts off, pause, put on some trunks, and throw down right there. Dude, do it. Just go right there. Right there. These dudes like to fight, right? I've been told fighters just want to fight. All right, just do it there. Just do it there. Somebody quickly sanction the fight in the hallway. Get it done. Shout out Bruce Gaz, the GOAT Mario P, Benavidez versus Charlo. Great fight. Benavidez versus Charlo. I don't know. Virgil comeback announced. Virgil's comeback is announced, yeah, for January. So it's good to see Virgil back. Let's see if he can actually get in the ring. Hopefully he can get in the ring and make weight. My guy Nando's here. Shout out to him. Calix, how can you fight if fighters demand so much money and the cards are not attractive? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just going to point out that the dudes are not fighting. I'm going to throw out my theories as to why they're not fighting, and then throw out my solutions or possible solutions, because there's no solutions. There are only trade-offs, right? So I'm going to throw out what I think they should do and then get ignored again. That's what's going to happen here. 50 million on just production. I mean, probably so. Probably so. Yeah, Jose Benavidez. There you go. I don't know. The dude's been gone for over 2 years, JC, and he's fighting and he's not even defending the belt. I don't even think that fight's for the belt. So I don't know what to do with that, man. Like, people are acting like that's the greatest card of all time. And there's a reason that they have to put actual fights on undercards now at the PBC, because they have nowhere else to put those fights. Where are they going to put them? Did y'all see, by the way, before we get into these fights, December 9th, the card scrapped. Remember, we were making fun of, they were going to put on Keith Thurman versus Stanionis, 2 guys who hadn't fought in almost 2 years. They were going to put on Danny Garcia versus Erislandy Lara at 155 catch weight for the middleweight title, 2 guys who hadn't fought in almost 2 years. And then we're going to put on Mayweather versus Pacquiao exhibition part 2, as if anybody wanted to see that again. And they just scrapped it. So now the plan is December 16th. December 16th is going to be the Showtime ending. It's going to be the ending for Showtime. And in true Showtime fashion, the ending is going to be David Morrell Jr. They can't find an opponent for him yet because they have to find a cheap opponent, right? That is somewhat acceptable to the public. And they're going to put it in Minnesota. And they're going to put it in an arena in Minnesota that's 98% comped. And that's how they're going to go out. I saw earlier in the week Mal Charlo complaining that Showtime, that the PBC is not, speaking of Mal Charlo versus Benavidez, Mal Charlo is complaining that they are not promoting his fight coming up on the undercard on November 25th. And Mal should watch this show, because I've explained how Showtime and the PBC in particular does not promote their fighters. They have a promoter who does not promote. I don't know if Maul knows this. They have an advisor, right? He works as a promoter behind the scenes and manager, but being that he's breaking the Muhammad Ali Act, he can't actually get out there and promote, right? So he has a shadow promoter who comes out and has no marketing skills, who can't promote. And then on top of that, I've highlighted, Maul, if you want to watch this show, if you want to watch this channel, I've highlighted how specific examples of how a David Morrell Jr. could be fighting in Minnesota in a 98% comped arena. People will say, oh, look at all the people there. Look at all the people there. Look how loud it is. They all got done for free. Morrell Jr. is not even close to being from Minnesota. Don't know what they're trying to build there. And on top of that, you can go to the PBC's website 4 days before Morrell Jr. fights, and his fight is not on the PBC schedule. Imagine that. I can go to Dan Rayfield's schedule. I can go to badlefthook.com. I can see Morrell Jr. is fighting so-and-so, but if I go to PBC's website 4 or 5 days before Morrell Jr.'s fight, I can't see that Morrell Jr. is fighting. So Maul Charlo needs to catch up. And on top of that, Maul Charlo shouldn't be blaming anybody for anything. He should be blaming himself. He should be looking in the mirror as to why he has no buzz, because you disappeared. If anything, you're a privileged fighter. Why? Because you have a belt that you haven't defended in 2 years, because you haven't fought. And on top of that, you're about to fight Benavidez. And for what I'm hearing, the fight's not even going to be for that belt. Privileged fighter. Privileged generation. That's where we're at. Before we get into the inactivity and more ranting, let's talk about the positives here. Joe Cordina versus Edward Vasquez. Joe Cordina is a 16-1 favorite, and that's a fun division at 130. Why? Because Shock Foster just won. The top 5 in that division, top 7, you got Navarrete, Garcia, Foster, Cordina, Valdez, Rakimov, Consacal. You got guys like that. Then you're going to have guys moving in the division. Lee Wood, who has fought 3 times this year, moving up to 130. Warrington could possibly be moving up there. Who knows? Figueroa could move up there at some point. And I threw this out to D-Style the other day, is you never know if you fight the fights and you win and you're entertaining and you look a little bit vulnerable. You never know what's going to open up to you 2 years down the line if you simply put on a string like that. So Naoya Inoue is at 122. And as that guy moves higher, he's going to be more universally recognized, right? We talk about in America, and I'll highlight that in a while too, is we only have 2 title holders in America beneath lightweight. So the American landscape south of lightweight is largely extinct. So as you get closer to that lightweight limit, you start to get more intrigue with the American public. And as Naoya Inoue climbs to 126, possibly 130, he'll become a bigger star, not just in Japan, but elsewhere. And if you're a guy at 130, what you want to be doing short term is simply fighting the fights, because there are guys in this division, there are intriguing fights there, both stylistically, as far as unifications, etc., defenses. But if you do that, and you're the guy who comes out of that little club of fighters at 130, and Naoya Inoue says in the beginning of 2025, hey, I want to move up to 130 for a fight. I see you're winning. I see you're a little bit vulnerable. I want to fight you. Then suddenly you're in a big fight. Then suddenly you're in a marketable fight. Then suddenly, if you beat a Naoya Inoue, because if Inoue loses, it's going to be he went too high. He's fighting a guy who is just too naturally big for him. And you could be that guy. So these guys should be trying to leverage themselves for a play like that. And it's like I've said many times, it's like Nando has said in the chat, if you simply fight the fights, man, you'll be surprised at where you're at 2-3 years from now. We'll chronicle in a minute what these fighters are not doing and why these fighters are not stars. We'll chronicle that. If you're the guy, if you're the exception to that rule, if you're the guy fighting 3 times per year, and Tim Tszyu and his team understand this, if we're the guys fighting 3 times per year, they understand that this little crossover market, that only pertains to a handful of fighters in the sport. You got some heavyweights, right, that are going to take advantage of that market. Now that Ngannou's there, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder. But other than that, outside of the division, who is it? Canelo could possibly capitalize off that and tank. Nobody else. There's nobody else big enough to capitalize off of to where a crossover fighter would call that fighter out. So the rest of these guys need to be working. The rest of these guys need to get back to old school business. The rest of these guys need to do what Glenn Jennings sent an email to D-Style Boxing about and says, we need to get back to weight class business. That's a team that gets it. And the team that gets it, the team that works hard and gets back to old school traditional business is going to be the ones to be the stars in the next generation. I'm telling you. So a Cordina versus Vasquez, 16-1 favorite for Cordina, but this is the intriguing part about that fight is it drops to plus 106 KO and plus 120 decision for Cordina. So I'm going to play one of those. I'm on the look. Vasquez, I don't think is going to beat Cordina because 3 KOs in 16 fights. I don't think he has the power. He doesn't have the equalizer power. But the intriguing part is Cordina, does he win by decision or knockout? And when you see those odds go from 16-1 to the plus territory, as far as method of victory, I got to play one of those. And I think I'm going to play Cordina by late KO in this fight, plus 106. I think that's where I'm going to be with that. And I think I like Cordina by stoppage against Vasquez in a fun fight. Muratalla versus Diego Torres Nunes. Muratalla, I like him. He's a fun fighter, and he's one of these guys that goes into that box that D-Style and I talk about, right? The William Zepedas of the world, the Virgil Ortizes. Just put them in fights because it doesn't matter how many times these guys lose. They're marketable fighters. They're fun fighters. They're entertaining fighters. Nobody cares about the O in the loss column. Just put these guys in fights and build them that way. Build them as entertaining highlight reel KOs. One of the most disturbing parts of modern day boxing is we haven't built another Arturo Gatti. And you build Arturo Gattis by simply putting on the fights. So when I see a Jaime Munguia has only fought one time this year. Muratalla, at least his team gets it. This is his third fight this year, and they're putting him in fun fights. They're building him up. Nakathila was the last fight, second round stoppage. And then this one's going to be Torres Nunes. So this is what to look out for this fight. Nunes is a puncher, 17 KOs in 18 fights. We know Muratalla is obviously a pressure fighter, puncher. I talked to Jeremy Hill at a workout here in New Orleans a couple months ago. He fought Muratalla about a year or two ago, and he said, man, this guy's good. This guy, I just couldn't deal with him. The guy can punch. He's a furious fighter. This guy's the real deal. And I believe him. So will we have sort of a Santillan Rocha upset this weekend? Possibly. Nunes could possibly pull that off. Why? Because he's a puncher. And we just don't know that much about him other than highlights on YouTube, some fights on YouTube. Just don't know that much about him. He's a dangerous fighter, dangerous opponent. He can hit. But this is the thing. He hasn't fought at the 135 limit in a while. All of his fights have been right around 140. Right? So 135, how is that 5 pounds losing 5 pounds for this fight? How's that gonna deter him here? I don't know. But this is the third fight this year for Muratalla. I hope he's successful, and I think he will be. I like Muratalla here in a shootout. This could be the fight of the weekend. This could be the action fight of the weekend. And this is the positive, another positive, right? Is we talk about the negative stuff. We'll get into that in a minute, some of that stuff. We talked about Fury, and I'm so bored with the Fury stuff, I'm just not going to talk about it anymore. But as Chauncey has brought up, as we bring up here, is if you look at the positives, is these smaller cards are delivering. You got Santillan Roca. Then you had last weekend with O'Shake Foster's 12th round comeback win. And now this weekend is going to deliver some fun, entertaining fights. Some of them are statistical mismatches as far as the betting odds, but the betting odds have been off recently, and I think they will continue to be this weekend. Some of these fights are, like they say, Muratalla is an 8-1 favorite. I think it's closer than that. I think there's a more dangerous fight than that. Nontshinga, same thing. Nontshinga versus Adrian Dominguez. Dominguez, once again, his unraveling will be low KO percentage, just not a puncher. So Nontshinga, I think he's going to have the easiest time of the fighters this weekend. But another guy in Dominguez who could be a tough out So I like Nontshinga to win this fight. I like Muratalla by stoppage in this fight. And then Henry LeBron versus William Foster III. That's the matchup of the weekend as far as the betting guys that I've talked to. Statistical toss up. LeBron plus 114. William Foster III minus 144. So he's a slight favorite. And why is he a slight favorite? Tougher competition up to this point and a good quality win against Edwin De Los Santos last year in a fight that was at 130. And De Los Santos is now moving up to 135 to take on Shakur Stevenson. But it was an 8-round fight. William Foster won that fight. So a quality victory there. So just more to go off of when it comes to Foster, but it could go either way. LeBron, southpaw fighter, 18-0, Puerto Rican fighter, 10 KOs. That's another fight to look out for this weekend. So you got some up and coming fighters, and this is what DAZN does good when they get on their game. Nando, you talked about this when Golden Boy gets on their game, and you've got these up and coming fighters who just put on good fights and they put on good matchups. Excuse me, and that's what we've got a little bit of this weekend. It's a prospect looking to do move up. Hello, isn't that what you want, Jesus? Jesus, are you talking to Jesus? Moratalla. I'm still struggling with the L's, man. I'm still struggling. We have to claim the bounties. Too much money on the table. We're going to claim some bounties on Twitter. That is for sure. Do I have a bounty on my head, by the way, Mr. T? Do I have a bounty on my head? If not, man, I need to work harder. Virgil isn't running boxing. He could have just retired instead of risking his health. You're conflating. I think y'all are battling. In the chat. I think that's what's going on. So those are the fights this weekend, and those are the positives. Is amongst all of this mess, we still get good fights. Amongst the inactivity, and keep that in mind as we go forward throughout the rest of the show, we still get good fights. And it generally comes from the bottom down. And this is why it's troubling when we lose the show boxes. By the way, ProBox TV is putting on some good Showbox, ESPN Friday night fight, quality type fights. I hope they get more traction. Because other than that, you're just not going to get it in a sport. And Oscar does a good job of it on DAZN when he gets on his game. Eddie can do it too. But other than that, you're just not seeing it out there. But it generally comes from that area, and then the top has been failing us. And let's get into that right now. Do y'all know Rolly Romero was demoted to champion of recess by the WBA. So what that does is, and that whole mess right there is just a mess. Good Lord. But that brings us to 15 champions. 15. Not champions, championships in the sport of boxing. You have 64. Is it 64? You have 17 weight classes. No, 68. You have 68 major belts in the sport. United States of America only now has a hold of 15 of them. And what's more troubling is we have only 8 champions. And what's more troubling is those 8 champions pretty much come from the middle. I've talked about this. Underneath 135, underneath lightweight, we only have 2 champions. Bam Rodriguez, Shock Foster. And Shock almost lost his championship last weekend. And then north of 154, fellas, we're extinct. America owns nothing north of 154 except Jamal Charlo. And he hasn't fought in 2 years, and he's about to fight Benavidez in a tune-up fight, in a comeback fight, and I don't even think his belt's on the line. So basically, north of 154, we own nothing. We have nothing. But we have 15 major belts in this country, 15 out of the 68, and only 8 title holders. Fellas, and Bud owns 4 of them. Those are about to become vacant. Mel Charlo owns 3 of them. How long is he going to keep those before they become vacant? Devin Haney owns 3 of them. He's just holding on to them as he moves up to 140. Those are about to become vacant. So we're in danger of getting below the teens when it comes to belts here in the near future once some of these belts become vacant. We're doing good in the middleweight classes, but other than that, we're done. We don't do anything in the lighter weight classes. We don't do anything middleweight north. That's just disgusting. And I told you we were going to get negative here, but it needs to be highlighted. Our fighters at the top are letting us down. They're letting us down. Chronic inactivity. So I guess I had to be the one to do it since nobody's out there doing it. And we've highlighted this before. We've made the name chronic inactivity. I see other people use it, but it came from here. We've talked about last year how the top 10 pound for pound, according to Ring Magazine, fought 13 times. 13, maybe 14. And the more troubling part is I went all the way top 150 box rec. Top 150. And it stays the same. 1.3, 1.2, 1.3 per fighter. The fighters in the top 150 last year, according to BoxRec, fought an average of 1.2 times. So people will push back on me and say, I don't like Ring Magazine's top 10 pound for pound list, so use something else. Fair enough. Fair enough. So I made it easier. You don't like BoxRec's pound for pound list? I made it easier. ESPN has a top 100 pound for pound list. ESPN that they put out beginning of the year. Top 100. And I think they tweak it every calendar year. Top 100 pound for pound list. So I went through this. I combed through it since nobody else wants to do it. I combed through it. And this isn't going to get the ratings. We're not talking about Tyson Fury, right? We're talking about Joe Cordina. We're talking about Sivanati Nontshinga's fight. We're talking about Muratalla's fight. We're talking about Henry LeBron versus William Foster III, right? And that's just not going to get the ratings, fellas. It's not going to get the ratings. And chronic inactivity doesn't get the ratings. But I guess somebody has to do it. Not everybody can put out Tyson Fury clickbait. Not everybody can talk about the latest Canelo Alvarez news. Because if I had to do that, it would bore me to death and I would disappear. So unfortunately, as I saw with my two O'Shaquie Foster videos last week and earlier this week, did about half the ratings. Just not going to get the ratings, unfortunately. But what I've noticed is some channels, when they do talk about it, they'll pull what is said on this channel and use it as their own. Fair enough. Top 100 pound for pound according to ESPN. The top 100 pound for pound fighters fought a combined are going to fight. And this is if everything holds true as far as the schedule and nothing is canceled for the last 2 months. Keep that in mind. 122 times this year combined. The top 100, let me tell you again, if the schedule holds out and nothing is canceled in November and December, the top 100 pound for pound fighters, according to ESPN, will fight a combined 122 times in 2023. A combined, on average, 1.2 times per fighter. I guess people don't like to do the research and they'll just pull the top 10, right? And like I said, I pulled the top 10 last year according to Ring Magazine. I don't like Ring Magazine, so pull something else. Okay, fair enough. ESPN's list. The top 10 pound for pound fought a combined 13 times. Oh, that's the top 10 pound for pound. So fighters at the top of the sport are naturally going to fight less because it's harder to make fights at the top. Okay, fair enough. Let me go further. 11 through 20 fought a combined 11 times. You want me to go further? 21 through 30 fought a combined 13 times. Would you like me to go further? 31 through 40 on the list fought a combined 13 times. Would you like me to go further? 41 through 50 on the list fought a combined 12 times. Like me to go further? 51 through 60 on the list fought a combined 15 times. I guess I'll go further. Calix, you know, at the top, it's just at the top it's broken. Not everywhere else, just at the top. It's just fighters at the top not fighting because, it's just harder to make fights at the top. Fair enough. Would you like me to go further? 61 through 70 fought a combined 14 times. I guess I'll have to go further. 71 through 80 on this list, ESPN top 100 pound for pound list, fought a combined 11 times. How is this? I don't understand. How is this? I was told that it's only the top 10 pound for pound doing this. I was told it gets better as we go down. How is this? This math isn't adding up. I'll go further. 81 through 90 on this list fought a combined. Y'all ready for this? Are y'all ready for this? 81 through 90 on ESPN's top 100 pound for pound list fought a combined 6 times. This is confusing to me. The math isn't mathing because I was told the inactivity is only at the top. It doesn't go down the list. It gets better as we go down the list. It's just the top that's broken. It's just the top where it's tougher to make fights and fighters aren't fighting. 91 through 100. Let's just finish off the list. 91 through 100 on ESPN's top 100 pound for pound list fought a combined 14 times. 1 through 10, it was 13. 91 through 100. The bottom of the list, basically the same. 14. And keep in mind, some of these fights haven't been fought yet. I'm just assuming here when I say 122 out of the top 100 that these fights in November, December are going to be canceled. Because that's another thing. I'm told inactivity is better for the fighters, it's healthier. Why are they getting injured so much? Why are they pulling out of so many fights? So let me go even further to really hammer home where we are. And I think this one's going to shock you. ESPN's top 100 pound for pound fighters. You know how many of them have fought 0 times? Somebody just throw out numbers in the chat. Just throw out some numbers in the chat. Out of ESPN's top 100 pound for pound list, how many of those guys have fought 0 times? Do you know? Like, put it in the chat. Throw out some numbers. Let's see. Let's see if y'all can get it. Let's see if y'all can get close to it. How many of the top 100 pound for pound, according to ESPN, have fought 0 times? Go ahead. Come on, let's go. Just throw out some numbers. If you get it wrong, you get it wrong. Who cares? Like, throw out some numbers. Throw out some numbers. Top 100. It ain't 3. And you put this laughing emoji, OG Blaze, but you're right. You got it on the first try. You put the laughing emoji. And that's how funny it is that you would think like that answer right there. It's like, yeah, right. 20. That's the correct answer. OG Blaze, you win. You win. ESPN top 100 pound for pound. According to that list, 20 of the fighters in ESPN pound for pounds top 100, 20 of them, 20% of that list fought 0 times in 2023. 0. Haven't fought in the first 10 months, will not be fighting in the last 2 months. 20. That's where you are. How many have fought 1 time? How many have fought 1 time? Almost half of the list. Almost half of that list has fought 1 time in 2023. 1 time. 42 of the top 100, according to ESPN's pound for pound list, has fought 1 time. 42 of them. So 62% of ESPN's top 100 pound for pound has fought either 0 times or 1 time in 2023. So I have a question for people. Like, how do you expect to run a sustainable sport in which you can build stars from the bottom up when 62% of your top fighters aren't fighting? %34 of the list, 34 of the top 100 fought twice. Good for them, right? Or are going to fight twice, because some of those guys haven't done it yet, but fought twice. And 4, nobody's fought 4 times, but 4 guys on this list has fought 3 times. Congrats to them. And we got to be clapping it up for them. And I wrote their names down, and I'll be naming them now. Robeisy Ramirez will fight 3 times this year. Tim Tszyu has fought 3 times this year. Lee Wood has fought 3 times this year. And my guy, Navarrete is going to fight 3 times this year. So it's not like, I didn't even know this. But it's not shocking to me that 4 of my favorite fighters are the ones that fought 3 times this year. Robeisy Ramirez, Tim Tszyu, Lee Wood, Navarrete have fought 3 times this year. 4% of this list, the best fighters in the sport, have fought 3 times. Less than 40% of them have fought at least 2 times. And I can't get over it. I was shocked as I was going down this list and seeing all the zeros. Because it takes time, right? I got to write down the whole list. I got to go back to BoxRec to see which ones I missed, if I missed any fights from these guys. And I'm shocked as I go down a list, and 20 of these guys, 20% of the list, 20% of the list, 20 guys out of top 10, according to ESPN, pound for pound, our best fighters in the sport have fought 0 times. D-Style has talked about this, where Floyd Mayweather's little retirement that he announced, I believe after the Ricky Hatton fight, lasted about, it was 21 months between fights, but he announced the fight with Juan Manuel Marquez before that. So his retirement lasted a little around a year and a half. That's a normal inactivity period now for fighters. Do y'all understand? That was like, what, 2009? So do y'all understand how far we've come in 14 years to where a guy used to retire and spend about a year and a half off. Now these guys are doing it on the norm. 20% of this list is doing that. 20% of this list is basically retired if we're taking a normal retirement period 15 years ago. Look at what they've done to you. Look at what they've done to this sport. Look at how they've raped and mangled it. And I'll have dudes come after me, and I know why they do it. But they'll tell me things like this on Twitter, on X, on here, and say things like, oh, look at the old man with his old traditional ways, and yelling at people on the porch to stop riding their skate. That's not what this is, man. It's not what it is. I'm just telling you, you need to look up. I said it the other day and realize there's flying elephants. Realize there's a bearded lady over there. Realize there's a lion mangling a lion tamer in front of you. You're now underneath the circus tent. They've destroyed the sport. They've absolutely destroyed the sport. And the good news about that is, if you're hardcore boxing fans, we'll still get our fights at the bottom. I still like coming on here. D-Style highlighted this the other day when we were talking. There's a reason I'm here, because I don't have anybody else to talk boxing with. That's just a sad state of affairs. That's the reason I came here to begin with. There's nobody around me talks about boxing, follows it, so I can come here and do it, and it's fun. And we could talk about, on the Aftermath Monday or Sunday, we'll talk about the aftermath of what I think will be some fun fights this past weekend. But we also have to highlight the negative, because look at what they've done to our sport. It's like after Sonny gets shot up at the toll booth, and Don Corleone is sitting, look at what they did to my beautiful boy. Look at what they did to my beautiful boy. He's got like 80 holes in him. They can't even do an open casket because he's been mangled, riddled with bullets. And that's what they did to our sport. Look at the fourth quarter schedule again. They don't have anywhere to put anybody. Boots Ennis can't get a fight. Y'all know that, right? Like, he can't get a fight. He was trying to get a fight for the fourth quarter on Showtime. He can't get it. They can't afford an opponent for him. And this poor dude was going to be on an undercard again. I keep being told, like, what a serious talent this dude is. The best pound for pound fighter since Roy Jones, one of the greatest welterweight talents of all time. And like 12 people outside of boxing know who he is. They finally got this dude a main event a couple months ago, and he's like an 8-year veteran. But when I highlight it, I'm a hater. It's like, no, dude, you don't understand. It's the opposite. I care about what happens to this dude. Do you realize? Do you see like the possible talent there? I don't know if it's going to be realized. I have to guess that it's not going to be, because that seems to be the norm now, is the talent isn't realized because these guys aren't being brought up. Their swords are not being sharpened. But this poor dude is on Twitter all the time talking about how he ran 87 miles today. Fight date coming up. Ran 87 miles. Sparred 27,000 rounds today. Fight date coming up. Fight date coming up. Fight date coming up. And then he finds out there's no fight date coming up. And I'm going to be called a hater for pointing that out. Like, why isn't that dude fighting a third time this year? We fought at least twice. All right, fine. One of the fights was in January. He's ready to fight. Didn't you see? He just sparred 27,000 rounds. He's ready. He wants to fight. But Showtime doesn't have the money. PBC doesn't have the money. So the dude, once again, is shelved. And he's not even a PBC fighter, by the way. But Showtime doesn't have the money. Don't have the money. So he's shelved. And that's where we are. And I just want to see the fighters. I would have loved to have seen Tank Davis fight a third time. Why not? His last fight was in April. Can't do it. Why? Just can't do it. Just can't do it, right? Yeah, just can't do it. Okay. Can we get Tank versus Shakur? No. Shut up. No. You can't do it. We can't do it. Can't do it? All right. What are we doing here then? What are we doing? We're going to get Tank versus Isak too, or Tank versus O'Malley in a crossover fight? What are we doing? What are we doing? That's the sad part about this is, out of these 122 fights that the top 100 ESPN fighters pound for pound fought, out of those fights, how many of those were actually quality fights? How many of those 122 were actually throwaway fights? How many of those fights were Tank Davis versus Hector Luis Garcia just tune-ups? How many? That's where we are. It's not just that the quantity isn't there. Like, if the quantity is not there, can I at least get quality? No, you can't. I can't get quality either. I can't get quantity or quality. No, you're going to get some big events. We're going to give you events. And you're going to be happy with that, because this is now a country club event-driven sport. Don't worry about the fights. We're going to give you events. And then when I push back on this stuff, when I talk about this stuff, they always hit me with the same thing. I can at least back up what I'm saying with data, with hard data. And I can come on here and talk without notes too, because it's all here. It's all here. Just following the sport. I have my values as a boxing fan right here. It's right there. That's what I want. That's what I think the sport's about. This is where I think we could take it if we get back to the basics and our foundation, and I could back that up with data. They can only push back with race baiting, number one, just to shut down the argument because they can't compete in the arena of ideas. Or number two, what they'll do is they'll push back with what? Live gates, pay-per-view numbers. In a lot of cases, they don't even have that. Tank Davis did 1.2 million pay-per-view buys. All right, what did he do before that? What did he do? What did he do before Ryan? And then all of those numbers are fake now. Those are like damn unemployment numbers, inflation numbers. Those are all fake. They're all rigged. They're all propped up. Those aren't even real numbers anymore. They're lying about live gates. They're lying about pay-per-view numbers. Nobody's going to check them on it. How are you going to get that information? So they'll lie about that, and that's what they push back with. And you'll be like, dude, I'm a boxing fan. I don't care about the numbers. I don't care about the economic numbers. How many legacy fights is he winning? Legacy. Legacy. This guy, like, legacy. This dude is worried about legacy. Haven't you heard? Things have changed. This is new boxing. This is new boxing. Take that elsewhere with your old stuff. Like, I'll point it out. I'll point it out to the kids. Like, kids out there, they'll talk about rap music. I'm like, okay, wait a second. Have you looked at the Billboard Top 100 lately? Do you know that it's been a year and a half, the first time in history that rap music, hip hop has gone over a year without a hit number one, without a number one hit? It's gone a year and a half without a number one hit. That never happens. Hip hop, rap music used to be number one all the time. All the time. It's gone a year and a half now. And you'll tell them why. Dude, I don't understand anything they're saying. It's not that I can't relate. If the music is good, I'll still listen to it. I'm not the dude. This is the sad part about this. I always wanted to not be this dude. I'm not that dude. I'm not the dude to stand on the front porch and say, stop riding the skateboard on my front lawn. That's not what this is. Have fun. Ride the skateboard. Have fun. Have at it. But I listen to this stuff and they're mumbling. And I'm telling them, what are they saying? What are they saying? What is this? What are they saying? I'll put it on Amazon Music and I'll put the lyrics up there and then the lyrics are just mumbling. And these dudes are literally, and they're wondering why they don't have a number one hit. It's like, dude, nobody understands a sentence of what these dudes are saying. That's why they don't have a number one hit. It is the quality of the music. And it's the same thing with boxing is we'll get some big events. Other than that, what do we have? Dana White's out there wheeling and dealing, signing all kind of 9-figure deals, just wheeling and dealing the sport. And his fans are having fun. And we're sitting over here. We get a couple events and dudes are like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. It's the greatest year in the history of boxing. Look at what they're doing. Look at Steven Espinoza. Go, Steven, go, Steven, go, Steven, go. They're like twerking. It's working. Go, Steven, go, Steven. They're having a good time, and we're just sitting here as boxing fans just watching this circus act. And like, what happened? What happened? And that's where we are. So I gave them a new list. It was Ring last year, top 10, 13 times. They didn't like that list. BoxRec, top 150. They didn't like that list. Both flawed lists. Okay, I'll give you another one. I'll give you one list this time. ESPN, top 100. Here's ESPN's top 10, pound for pound. Fought a combined 13 times, just like Ring Magazine's list last year. Well, Calix, you're only talking about the top 10. No, I talked about the top 150 last year, and I proved that the same number stays static all the way through the top 150. Calix, it's BoxRec. Come on, it's not a real list. It's BoxRec. It's BoxRec. Okay. ESPN, top 100, pound for pound. One list. Here's how we're going to do it. Top 10, pound for pound, fought a combined 13 times. Oh, it doesn't go down the list. It's only at the top because fights are tougher to make. Okay, 11 through 20, fought a combined 11 times, 11 through 20. 21 through 30, fought a combined 13 times. 31 through 40, fought a combined 13 times. 41 through 50, fought a combined 12 times. 51 through 60, fought a combined 15 times. 61 through 70, fought a combined 14 times. 71 through 80, fought a combined 11 times. 81 through 90, fought a combined, you ready for this? 6 times. 91 through 100, fought a combined 14 times. 20% of the list, 20 of ESPN's top 100 pound-for-pound fighters fought a combined 0 times. 0. Zero. Donut. Zero. Y'all love the number zero, right? Everybody's talking about the O. The O. You love the O, right? Well, you love this. 20% of the list fought a combined 0 times. 20% of boxing's top fighters fought 0 times. 42 of them, almost half the list, fought once. So 62% of the top 100 pound for pound fighters, according to ESPN, fought 0 or 1 times. Good Lord, man. I got to bounce. Thank y'all for coming through. God bless. Peace.